Wednesday, everyone, and it is indeed a happy Wednesday on the show, as every Wednesday we give you and we get free immigration advice from Aquino and Lowe Law Firm.
This American Dream segment is brought to you by Aquino and Lowe Law Firm, answering your immigration questions.
All right, listen up, guys. I know that this is common for us Kababayans, those of you who have relatives and family members in the Philippines. You want to adopt them so that they can come here and stay legally with you in the U.S. Attorney Allison Aquino is joining us to talk to us about that. It's not really the adoption process, but I guess how adoption affects immigration. Allison?
Exactly. And as you point out, it's a very common situation. Culturally, we want to take care of our families. We want to do the best that we can in order to provide them with the life that we want them to live. And so it is very common for individuals to want to adopt their family members or children who are just in need.
Okay, and today the Hague Convention has something to do with that. Can you talk to us a little bit about Hague Convention? What is that, for those that are not familiar, like myself?
Without going into too many technical details, but the laws really did change when the Hague Convention was enacted and became effective back in April 1 of 2008. Okay. And it's a treaty that we have signed with many, many nations throughout the world, one of which is the Philippines. And so when countries are a party to the Hague Convention, there are specific legal requirements regarding eligibility for adoption and also special procedures that need to be followed when going through an adoption process.
And one of the reasons for this is obviously, you know, abduction, sale, or trafficking of children. Allison, so let's talk about this. You're saying here that for kids in the U.S., it makes the adoption nearly impossible.
Exactly.
Why is that?
And so under the Hague Convention, there are provisions which pertain to what's called habitual residence. And simply because of this provision of habitual residence, it makes it very, very difficult in order for a U.S. citizen who is here in the U.S. with the child who is already here in the United States, either here temporarily as a visitor or maybe here as a student or maybe as an overstay. Right. And so because of this provision, it makes it difficult to fulfill the requirement of the habitual residence. So going through the normal process of the adoption petition is likely no longer an option because of the Hague Convention.
Should be more difficult. Now, would you advise your clients then to send the kids back home? Because according to my notes, for kids outside the U.S., it makes it easier to adopt somebody from outside the U.S.
It does, but that may not necessarily be the course, because although the adoption process is no longer available, there is perhaps another means in which we can pursue called a special juvenile immigrant children's procedure. Okay. So that's an entirely separate procedure that can be followed, but it also has its own complexities.
Maybe next time we can talk about that.
Correct.
Okay. For now, for the purposes of those who want to adopt somebody from the Philippines, what are the eligibility requirements? And
so the benefit with the Hague Convention is that when the child is still overseas, and this is a very common situation, you have the U.S. citizen here in the United States and they have family members who are still left behind. And so with the Hague Convention, it actually made it a lot easier as far as eligibility is concerned to proceed with going through the adoption process. Although the good part is eligibility is easier to fulfill, but the bad part is that the process and the procedures have become a lot more complex and a lot more difficult.
What time? Well, what is the time limit, or how long does it usually take?
It can take years, and so that is what people need to understand. This is not something that's just going to take 6 months or a year. More likely, you're looking at maybe 2 to 3 years before the child can obtain the visa and enter the United States.
And there is one eligibility requirement that you need to know about, especially with the time wait, because the petition, there is an age limit for a child to be adopted.
Correct. Okay. The process with immigration is a multi-step process. Before you can even file the petition with the Immigration Service, however, there are a lot of requirements that need to be done. And as far as age is concerned, the first petition that must be filed with the immigration must generally be filed before the child turns 16. Okay. And so with regards to a child's age, you really need to start working on these procedures definitely no later than age 15, hopefully much earlier than that, so that you don't age out.
Okay, now if you are a couple, so adoptive parents, if you are married, both of you must become adoptive parents. Can't be just one.
Correct. Okay. So both people must ultimately adopt the child one of the persons in the marriage needs to be a U.S. citizen.
Okay.
The other individual does have to have at least some type of lawful status here in the U.S.
Okay, now, so that's some type of lawful status, meaning work visa, student visa, permanent residency card and all that.
Correct.
Okay, now, you don't have to be married if you want to adopt. You can adopt even if you are unmarried.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you're unmarried, you do have to be a U.S. citizen and at least the age of 24.
All right, all right. Well, thank you so much for reminding us of those requirements for those that are contemplating adopting family and relatives from the Philippines. You talked about the process being complex, so I'll leave it up to you to call Attorney Aquino, number on the screen for your personal consultation. You also do email and phone consultation, right? Making it very easy for us to get our legal questions answered in terms of immigration. Thank you, and more power to you.
Thank you, Janelle.
Entertainment report when we return. Don't go away.